Please introduce yourself.
Bazila Javaid. I'm from Sopore, District Baramulla, Jammu and Kashmir. I was school at St. Joseph's Higher Secondary School, Baramulla. Did my bachelor's from MCMDAV College, Chandigarh, and I pursued master's from Punjab University, Chandigarh. Presently, I work as a remote content writer at Steblex Systems. I'm a nature lover. I love gardening, exercising, teaching, and fashion designing. I'm a polyglot. I know 9 languages. I can speak 4 languages fluently: English, Hindi, Urdu, and Kashmiri. I have a certificate course in French. I can understand and speak Punjabi fairly well. I know 3 other languages at a very basic level: Turkish, Korean, and I can read Arabic. I'm a naturally upbeat and enthusiastic person.
You've studied in Punjab,
Yeah,
Chandigarh, Punjab,
really good. Yes.
and you're a master's in English as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me, we have this a very famous name, Gidda. We call it Gidda in Punjab. What is that?
Yeah. It's a folk dance.
Are you aware of Tehmat in Punjab?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of it.
And you're a bachelor's in science, as far as I
Yes.
can get you names. Okay. Tell me regarding English literature, what has been the impact of Indian English poets on the literature as a whole?
Well, there has been a significant contribution from English writers in India. For example, Ramanujan is there. There are women writers also. So there are some people who travel to different parts of the world during the subjugation. So we have that kind of literature also. So what Indian literature has given to the English literature and world as a whole is the diversity of Indian society. It has been written in English, but its ethos are purely Indian. For example, we see in poems of A.K. Ramanujan, looking for a cousin on a swing, or mothers of rivers. Here, the themes, they are entirely Indian, and though the medium is English, but the written context, the themes, subjects, everything is Indian. So it gives a unique contribution in the world of English literature.
Can you elaborate on some salient features of the poetry of Ramanujan?
Yeah. So, poetry of Ramanujan has typically Indian themes. For example, he describes a house. It is a general Indian house that we find, with a huge family, a lot of members, a lot of relations, a lot of people coming in, going out. There are a lot of traditions, the folk songs, everything, the culture that has been depicted in a very English manner, yet it is Indian. In other poems, like he describes his mother. The mother is the image of a typical Indian woman, sari, and how she contributes to the household chores, how she is keeping the family together. Then there is this looking for cousin on a swing, the typical relationships, the young relationships between Indians. So these are some of his typical features. In another of his poems, that's called A River. There, the cultural depiction is also there. For example, he talks about cows, how cows have been given certain religious importance in Hinduism. So there's a lot of cultural mix in his poems, yet his writing is very simple and easy to understand. Then his way of writing is English, and yet it has Indian essence to it. So these are some of his typical features.
Tell me about this Kantapura. Who wrote? Who was the author of it?
It was Raja Rao.
Hmm. And how did he represent colonial and post-colonial past?
Or your voice is cracking.
How did he represent the colonial and post-colonial past?
There's a lot of colonial significance in Kanthapura. For example, how the society was divided to begin with. The Indian society itself was divided, which the Britons took use of, and then they subjugated them, and they tried to wield this diversion between different communities. For example, there is Hindu community, there's Muslim community, then there are Dalits, then there's lower class, upper class, Brahmin. So all of these were actually a spectacle of, or it was a mirror reflection of what was going on in the society, Indian society at that point of time. He waged the Britishers, a divide and rule policy. It is one of the factors that he essentially puts forward in Kanthapura. Then about the old narratives, that the importance of old people. For example, the narrative itself, she's Achakka, who is the grandmother. It's like an Indian tradition. So there are a lot of Indian elements there. And the society, the picture of the society is colonial, and the impact of British, for example, the Sahib. He's in coffee. He was present in the coffee estate. So that also depicts the relationship between how people were subjugated that point of time. The open firing. It was also it was a microcosm of whatever was going on in rest of the India. There was the lead in the novel, who was a staunch follower of Gandhi, but towards the end, sarcastically, he becomes follower of Nehru, because that also represents what was going on, what was the picture of Indian society, the colonialism. We see a bit of post-colonial elements also. For example, the entire village was destroyed. Kanthapura was destroyed because of the revolts. But then there is a hope for a new generation, because whoever was left there, they moved to a different place. There was, of course, there was destruction, and then the people there, they started thinking, was it right of us to start the revolt? They were in a limbo, in a cultural limbo, where they were not sure whether what they did was right. So that's a post-colonial feature. For example, people after colonialism, they are left in this space where they do not know whether they belong to a certain place, whether the things they did was right, what was the actual culture, what were the things they were fighting for. So these are post-colonial features.
You mentioned Gandhi and Nehru. How would you
Yeah.
differentiate between the democratic model put forward by uh, Gandhi vis-a-vis Nehru?
Gandhian society, or his concept of a democracy, was more inclined towards the villages, Ramraj, whereas Nehru's was more of progressive thinking. Gandhi thought that he believed, and he put forward that the India would become successful if the villages are organized well. So he believed in a village economy. He believed in Gram Raj. Then Nehru was looking forward. His policies were more inclined towards the socialistic tendencies, if I'm to put it that way. His tendencies were more socialistic, whereas Gandhi's were more. People often, critics say that it was a retrogressive measure for Gandhi to say that. However, his because most of the India is a village. It's a huge village. 70% of the population still thrives in the villages. So his policies were more inclined towards villages, and Nehru's were more inclined towards a socialistic republic.
Gandhi. It is famous regarding Gandhi that he made this statement that it is industrialization and not the inability to industrialize that is the root cause of poverty in India. What do you think about that statement?
Yes, I think it is worth what he said, that it is the way industrialization is put forward. For example, in rest of the world, the industrial revolution had, of course, brought economic prosperity, but at the same time, it had degraded society. It had created classes, and it was a root cause of the abuse and the assault of lower classes. So if we look at that, if we at industrialization in that way, so yes, it was a bane. But if industrialization was to be brought in a right way, then it could become a boon for the society. So Gandhi has rightly mentioned that.
Do you know Gulliver Travels?
Yes,
Who is the author?
it is Jonathan Swift.
Tell me about it. What is it all about?
So there are two layers there about Gulliver's Travels. One is the shallower one, and the other one is a deeper one. It was written during neoclassical times when there was a lot of popularity about enlightenment, finding about the new discoveries, the sea voyages, travels. So all these elements that were present in the society that time have been reflected in the Gulliver's Travels because it is a travel log. Basically, it was more longer, lengthier when it was written. It has been just written into four chapters, huge chapters. The others have been excluded. So it was a children's book to begin with, how they put it, to save themselves from the wrath of the ruling authority, because it was actually a satire on the English society. The different
Mhm.
chapters of the book, they are particular attacks from Swift towards the ruling authority, that is the English society at that point of time. How rulers failed their subjects, how subjects were involved in petty matters, how
You,
every
you've me- you've mentioned that it was a children's book. So,
yeah.
what according to you would be a takeaway for an adult reader of that book?
Yeah, to like I said, it was put in the in the genre of children's book to save itself from the wrath, because it is fantastical, but it is a direct attack on the authority. It is a satire, and satires are meant to be that neoclassical age. It was famous for writing satires, so it was a satire on English society.
Who wrote The Paradise Lost,
It was Milton.
and what was his opinion concerning the marriage and gender roles?
Yeah, this is one of the most contested things about Paradise Lost. Milton was a Puritan, so he truly believed in his Puritan beliefs and thoughts. The picture of Eve that he has presented were criticized a lot because it represented a gender biased society. So, Eve was thought to be subjugate to Adam. She was not, and it was. According to Paradise Lost, it was Eve who forced Adam to have that forbidden fruit. So she's considered root cause of all the evil, or all the bad things that happened to Adam and Eve later. So if we take that into consideration, it was really a gender biased depiction that was put forth by Milton. But if we look at it in as a literary form, it was one of the classical epics that Milton wrote, and it is still read. So it has all those elements of epic literature in it.
What is your opinion regarding gender roles?
Well, if we are to believe the facts, then World Economic Forum's GEM, the gender gap report, it says that it would take another 200 years to close the gender gap in Asia. So yes, it is true that there is still this gender bias in the society. There is deprivation of social, political, economic representation of women in the society. And like I said, if facts are to be believed, these are true. This is not a myth, because some people allege that yes, it's a myth. But looking at the facts, it is very much there. Also, UN's gender development reports, GEM is there. Women empowerment reports are there. So if we are to believe that, it would take a lot of time for us to close that gaps that are persisting in the society.
Given a chance, if you had to do something about it, closing the gender gap in your particular region, what would you do?
I would like to empower women. By empowerment, I mean that I would first of all educate them and then provide the finances to them. And all of this cannot happen if society does not change. So education plays a key role here. So I would expand education right from the birth to death of a woman. There need to be opportunities that are there, but they are not reaching out to women, or women are not reaching out to these opportunities because of lack of education, awareness, or lack of self confidence. Simply, so education could build or build all these bridges and gaps wherein women feels deprived from all of these social, political, and economic spheres. If education is given in a right way, and then for example, if a woman is financially empowered and then she lives in a society where she's not safe in the streets, then it would be all useless. So society needs to change simultaneously by empowering women. We are not only giving education to them but to the rest of the society also, because changes come both way.
You mentioned you put a lot of emphasis on education. Well, United States of America being one of the most literate countries in the world, having the size that it has, it has a very high literacy rate. And if you have an analogy of United States in India, it is the Kerala who is considered to have the highest literacy rate in India as well. But there is some connection with the level of literacy that you have in India or in US with the level of crimes that are being committed in those areas. So in United States is also, along with having a high literacy rate, there is also a high rate of crimes being committed. And in India also, Kerala is almost one of those states in India that has a very high incidence of crime, despite having high levels of literacy. So, do you think there is some connection between education and the level of crimes that are being committed?
Um, if you are to believe the term, the meaning of the term literacy, being literate does not mean being, educate. Education and literacy are two different things. If a person is literate, he may not necessarily be educated. So there's a huge gap between being literate and being educated. Having said that, yes, there is a relation between education and crime. People get they get aware of a lot of ways, methods. For example, the recent incidents in India where the criminals have been, they have been watching these crime series and then repeated crimes of same natures happening all across the country. So there's a link towards it. Educated people, it's the educated people who were doing because they have access to all of this stuff. So it is very necessary that with education there is also moral policing of of children, of students in general, that needs to be done. Because Atomom was one such example that showed us that education is not what humanity needs. It needs a lot of moral values also. So if we take that example into consideration, then education plus some basic human values need to be there for a society to prosper.
You mentioned that there's a difference between being literate and being educated, and the
Yes.
focus that India has, it is on literacy. It is on increasing the literacy rates. Do you think now it's high time that we should abandon these indices and focus on the literacy?
Well, for certain, if we need some idea of what is going on, even be it just literacy, it is all right to have those indices, but not necessarily just surviving on them or completely having faith on them. Yes, that is just a mark of what is happening, like in our daily lives. Our exam papers, they are not what describe us. It's just a mark that we secure, that we score somewhere. So it is not just the indices that need to be worked upon. Okay, we are working in this field just to score higher on a particular scale. No, that's not what it is. Uh, like I said, education needs to be more focused on the overall development, the development of critical thinking, overall personality development, co-curricular activities, activity-based learning. That is what makes a better human. Literacy cannot fetch that, and just believing on the numbers is not going to do that.
Okay, tell me the impact the Industrial Revolution has had on English literature.
Well, uh, industrial revolution was there during the Enlightenment, some half century of it towards the Victorian age. But towards the end of the Victorian period, we see there was a reaction to realism. During the Victorian age, there were novels that were fascinated by industrial revolution. For example, Charles Dickens' Hard Times. there is this grim picture of an industrially revolutionized world, a city that there's mention of coal everywhere, everything is gray, everything is black, there are a lot of steam engines, there's this, even the the reference to human beings have been referred to as machines. There is this negligence given to human emotions. So the authors, writers, dramaturs, poets of that time were deeply, they were affected by industrial revolution, as can be seen through their works. Even at that point of time, there was a huge debate about what is going to happen because of the industrial revolution, because nature was deeply sidelined. But towards the end of the century, the Victorian era, there was reaction to this kind of. The literature came back to the fields, like we see in Tess of D'Urberville's. There's a lot of mention of fields, greenery. There is symbolism of natural elements, as opposed to the mechanical symbolism that was present during the Industrial Revolution.
Understand by the Marxist approach to literature.
Well, there have been many approaches to literature, and Marxist is one of them. It is just putting on the lenses of Marxism in order to analyze the text. For example, if yeah, take for example the dramas, the kitchen sink dramas of 1950s into consideration. So everything was if we take Marxist lenses into consideration and analyze the text, then there we see that okay, this is a drama about life of people in terms of economic means. For example, the crumbled spaces, the tightened spaces, everyone was confined to small spaces. Everyone was juggling for work. Everyone was running. There was this despair because of World War II's. So we see all of this because of the capitalism there has been put forward in the literature. The root cause has all been drifted towards capitalism, and its solution has been shown towards socialism. So that is how we analyze the text if we put Marxist lenses on.
All right. Can you shed some light on metaphysical poetry?
Yes. So metaphysical poetry was a characteristic feature of Elizabethan times. It was John Donne who popularized it. There were other writers also. There was Herbert, there was Crashew, there was Vaughan, there was Andrew Marvell, there were others. So they did not intend on writing this metaphysical poetry. It was only Johnson later in the 18th century that referred these group of poets as metaphysical ones. So they had common characteristics like they had a single subject. They went deeper into the meanings of the words. It was a metaphysical conceit that ran throughout the poetry, and they had complex meanings in their words. So all of these elements together were used by a group of poets, which were later referred to as metaphysical poets.
Bazila, how would you differentiate an epic from a mock epic?
Epic was a form of poetry that was written during classical times, and mock epic was predominant during neoclassical times. So in neoclassical times, the genre uh, that was very popular was satire. So it was also of a mock and satire are similar. So in poetry, when something is mock epic, that means it was written in order to satirize something. For example, Pope wrote The Rape of the Lock. So it was written in an epic form that had all the classical elements in it, yet it was a satire. So the structural forms, the rules, the structure of the poem in totality, that was like an epic, but it was written to mock the contemporary times. The hero was in classical epics was someone great, and his legends were described. But in mock epic, a trivial matter, a trivial subject was brought forth to the light in order to satirize it. So when this contrast was built between classical epics and mock epics, of classical epics had a lot of grandeur, whereas the mock epics, they just represented trivial matters of everyday life. So that was in order to satirize the society that you're going in a wrong way, rather than pursuing classical aims and goals. You are going in a very trivial kind of direction that would lead you to nowhere. So Pope was one of the legends who wrote mock epics.
You also study Punjabi, is that right?
No, I'm afraid I have not studied Punjabi. I've studied history and culture of Punjab.
Culture of Punjab. Can you still tell me that Punjab is a language which is also spoken in Pakistan?
Hmm.
And what are the alphabets precisely that they use in India in comparison to Pakistan?
I do
There is
not.
a specific name to it.
Gurmukhi, the
Gurmukhi
script.
is used is in India, and the script in Pakistan
I'm
is known as.
sorry, I do not know that.
All right. Okay. You're from Sopor, Baramulla.
Yes.
Mhm. Sopor is also known as by which of the names?
Appletown, Chota London.
There
And
was
in earlier
recently this
times,
demand. Mhm.
it was called Soyapur.
There was this increasing demand by Kashmiri apple traders that the government, Indian government, should take very strong action regarding the illicit movement of apples from Iran to India. What do you know about that controversy, and why was there this demand to ban all imports?
So there has been a loss in apple related trade in Kashmir overall. The overall demand for Kashmiri apples has fallen, which has many reasons to it. For example, the lack of storage, proper storing facilities, the negligence of the traditional varieties of apples, the increasing amount of levies on the trucks, etc. And there are transportation problems, including the roads and rails. So they're not brought proper facilities, which has ultimately brought the
Is
wrath
that
on the
is that
farmers.
the reason? Is that the reason there was this demand to regulate the imports from Iran?
I'm sorry, I do not have the right knowledge to answer that.
बाजिला आपके डिस्ट्रिक्ट में बारामूला के अंदर देर इज दिस प्रॉब्लम कि काफी ज्यादा ड्रग अब्यूज हो रहा है ड्रग्स का काफी मेनेस है वहाँ तो गिवन अ चांस कि आप अगर अपने डिस्ट्रिक्ट में अपने ब्लॉक के लेवल पर काम कर रहे हो तो आप इस पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन को कैसे डील करोगे
So most of the teenagers are involved in this drug abuse. That is the point they started with. So I would rather engage them in other co-curricular activities such as sports, such as arts, which are pretty much lacking in Kashmiri schools and education system on the whole. If the attention of students is diverted towards these fields, then of course their mind will also divert from wrong activities. Say, for example, if music lessons are given, if some craft building is given, if skill building tasks are being given at schools, universities, and colleges, then of course it will divert the attention of the youth. It is also because lack of platforms that youth are mostly diverting towards drug abuse, because they want to have some kind of adventure. Then why not give them a sports adventure? Why not give them some platform where they can actually exhibit their talents? If and if that is its returns are good, then of course it would divert youth from drug abuse towards more positive and uh, productive work.
all right give me three reasons for the rich composite culture of Baramulla.
Since historical times, Baramulla has been a land of multiple communities. For example, Sikhs, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, Hindus. So that cultural lineage has been going on, and it is still persistent there, because even now we see Christians there, we see Hindus there, we see Sikhs there in huge numbers, and we see also Muslims there, and all of them are living together in at very good terms. So it is because of the historical impact, and also because the exchange of ideas that is taking place between communities, that the silos between different communities are breaking. It is improving their communication, and so the society is becoming more acceptable, more tolerant.
You mentioned Sikhs. Was there any Sikh guru that had visited Baramulla?
Yeah, it was the sixth Sikh guru.
What was his name?
Mm, I do not recall his name exactly, but if you allow me, I could make a guess.
Yeah, please.
Uh, Guru Gobind Singh Ji.
It was Shri Har Gobind Singh Ji.
Har Gobind Singh Ji.
Okay. Okay, tell me which of the Mughal emperors visited Baramulla?
It was Jahangir.
Stayed in
It was
Baramulla. Yeah.
Jahangir, and Akbar also paid a visit there, but it was Jahangir who stayed there.
We also have an eco park on Jhelum there. What are eco parks?
Ecological parks. They are symbols of. It is a modern development, yet it is in proper synchronization with the environment there.
How many tehsils do we have in your district?
16.
You mentioned that your hobby is uh, debating.
It is my co-curricular activity. There was a single column for co-curricular activities and um, hobbies. So half of them are my co-curricular activities. My hobbies are teaching, fashion designing, exercising, and gardening.
Okay, regarding exercising, are you aware of high intensity uh, interval techniques?
Yes, hit workouts.
Please. What do we do in that?
It is basically doing a lot of cardio in a short period of time. For example, if you're running at a pace of maybe 10 kilometers per hour, or lesser than that, maybe 2 kilometers per hour, and hit workout is actually doing that in half of its time, or whatever is suitable to everyone's body. For example, I might do cardio exercises for 30 minutes. That would burn a lot of calories that would be equivalent to running for an hour or an hour and a half. It is basically to save time, those who have a time crunch.
What kind of exercises do you do? Is it gymming or something else?
I do gymming, I do walking, I run.
You also have a hobby of fashion design. And tell me
Yes.
about what kind of uh, clothes would suit me.
Okay. Since I cannot see your height, I cannot decide, but as much as I can see, I think you would look pretty decent in formal attire, a tie, maybe light blue shirt with a navy blazer. That would look that would look good.
What is the difference between a jacket and a shacket?
Well, I love jackets to begin with. A jacket is just a blazer, the traditional wear, whatever way it is structured. But a jacket is a shirt. It looks like a shirt, although it's a jacket. It is padded. It may be lined. It may be longer than usual blazer. So that's the difference between jacket and a jacket.
You also like gardening. Uh,
Yes.
tell me the scientific name of rose.
I do not know scientific name of rose.
How did you develop this hobby of gardening?
I developed it in 2020 during COVID. So it is, I have loved nature since childhood, but it was only during 2020 that I actually got to do it. And since then, I've been gardening. I have 150 pots. So I have different kinds of plants in them. So that's how I developed this interest in gardening. it relieves my stress because during the preparation for civil services, you need to have a
Mhm.
hobby that relieves you of your stress and tension. So gardening is what is the thing for me. It does it.
You also like teaching. What kind of subjects do you teach?
I like teaching in a general sense. It could be anything that I've learned very well, and then I want to give that knowledge to people. So, in my school, in my college, at university, whatever I learned in a very good way, then I was really happy and eager to share it with my fellow classmates because I had found a way of doing it easily, and then I wanted to share it.
Since you're a student of literature, can you give me the difference between an interest and a hobby?
Yes, interest is less repetitive than a hobby. Anything that interests you is does not necessarily become your hobby, but hobby is something that you do consecutively, consistently. For example, gardening. I do it consecutively, consistently, with all the dedication, etc. But if something
So,
interests
so
me,
given the answer that you gave to the teaching, would you consider teaching your interest or hobby?
uh, whenever I would get a chance, I would teach. So that would make it a hobby, but I get to do it often. That would be my interest.
Okay, you also know French. Can you tell me this particular statement in French that
Hmm.
I will qualify this exam?
I'm not that, you know, fluent in French. I try. I know all the words except qualify.
Mhm.
So that makes the sense of the sentence incomplete.
Still, it would be better if you try.
I will qualify this exam.
Yeah.
No, no, I cannot try it like that because you need to have the all the words. Then you can put it because otherwise the words would fall
Mhm.
in wrong place.
Okay, tell me why should we select you?
As a born leader, I'm naturally upbeat, enthusiastic. I'm mature and very stable. I like to do things in an organized manner and systematically with a casual ease. I am goal oriented. I am optimist. I like doing work. I like helping people whenever
Mhm.
I get a chance. So I'm very compassionate. So that makes me
Well,
different from just,
I have two contentions with what you've said.
yes,
You're a born leader.
yeah.
Leaders do not consider themselves leader. It is the public that makes them the leader. So
Yeah.
how would you consider yourself to be a leader?
Well, my experiences in life have actually told me that yes, you were born a leader. For example, my first day at school when everyone was crying around, I was the only one who was not crying, and I actually beat up an elder guy in the bus who was yeah. Um, he actually spoiled my uniform the very first day, and I slapped him with my boot. So that's how my first day of school went when everyone
Do,
else was
do,
looking
do,
for
do,
mom.
do do you think that is a leadership quality?
That's not a leadership quality, but that's definitely a confident quality that is found in a leader.
Okay. Uh, and what the qualities that you mentioned, are you assuming that the other 600 candidates do not possess these such qualities?
Definitely not. There might be others who have these qualities, but what makes me different from all of them is the way I am, my personality, because every one of us are, raised and born in different ways. That affects your overall personality. So I think that makes me different because of the way I was. At the school. I had all the management, leadership, yeah, all these skills. I was a public speaker, a debater. So I think all these make me stand, way different than what everyone else has.
If there was an advice that you had to give to your, let's say, 18-year-old when you were 18-year-old, and now you have to give an advice. to yourself when you were 18-year-old, what would that be?
Trust yourself. Don't uh, don't let people sabotage you.
Bazila, tell me your three of the biggest weaknesses.
I do not have many weaknesses, but there's been one weakness that I've thought over time and again that sometimes the tone of my voice it offends people. I have naturally bold voice that um, sometimes that makes me sound arrogant or rude, which I'm actually not. I'm totally opposite to that. So that is one of my biggest weaknesses, and that's what I've been trying to improve on since a lot of time.
Mhm. And what is the thing that you do? You have any regret of your past?
Mm, no, I do not have any regrets from my past.
Okay, let's conclude. कैसा लगा आपको? How was the interview? I have not asked you any questions from the current affairs because I don't want to. वहां पर it's not necessary कि आपको current affair आता है नहीं आता है. It's more important that आपकी personality दुरुस्त है या नहीं. So tell me about how what was your experience about it?
Well, a lot of questions. I wouldn't say I hadn't expected, but just 5 minutes before I was doing the office work and I was still in that kind of state of mind. So it was a sudden transition. So yeah, it felt good. It felt good.
How was your performance? That's what I'm asking.
I know that I did not perform that well. Had I been in a different state of mind, I would have performed better. There were certain problems in framing my sentences, and uh, it's actually I had to choose very selective points out of many points that I knew, so that seemed difficult.
We'll start. There are some things that I just want you to customize. Is
Hmm.
this your first interview?
No, this is not my first interview.
कौन सा interview आपका?
Like in this state PCS.
JKPSC.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Have you given any interviews in UPSC as well?
No, no.
Okay, giving an interview in a company and giving an interview for the civil services examination, there's a hell
Hmm.
lot of difference.
Yeah.
यहाँ पर what you've mentioned is there are some things that I would totally want you to omit from your introduction.
Hmm.
You mentioned your name, then your school, then आपका bachelor's from Chandigarh, and then your work experience, and then you went on talking about your interest for so long कि मुझे लगा वो that was too much. आपने you started talking about your nine languages आपको आती है, चार में आप fluent है, you want आपको French आता है, आपने पंजाबी etc काफी कुछ बोल दिया आपने. You like debating and that and this and that. वो इतना ज्यादा खिंच जाएगा.
Hmm.
It would not look good.
Okay.
ठीक है ना? So I would want you to just mention your interests. बस तीन या चार चार words में.
Okay.
Just don't elaborate in that. Don't have this distinction कि nine languages आपको आती है जिसमें चार आप
Okay.
में आप fluency है, ठीक है ना? Don't do that. Interest में आपको gardening है, you like debating or you like teaching, जो भी आपका interest है, and you like learning new languages.
Okay.
That would be it.
Okay.
Now see, you mentioned in your interest that आपको French आता है. Then when I gave you the question about French
Hmm.
language, वो फंस गए फिर आप. तो वो एक उल्टा impression पड़ जाएगा panelist के ऊपर. कि
Okay.
you were the panelists don't know you as a person. So you might be a very humble person, but we
Hmm.
don't know that. That
Yeah.
is an issue. And when you're bragging about a language, you're but naturally expected to know that language. ठीक है ना?
Yeah.
So you cannot have an excuse कि मुझे वो word का मतलब नहीं पता. आपने already वो introduction में काम कर लिया था उसका.
Okay.
That is the first. Then regarding English as a subject, आपको बहुत solid language है अपने subject पर. Um, you know, I would in UPSC precisely. I'm not that sure about JKPSC. In UPSC, it is not good to have an elitist impression on the panelists. अगर
Okay.
ऐसा इंप्रेशन पड़ता है कि मे बी there's an elitist slight touch to this person, that is not good with the panelists, because those panelists have done so much hard work, and probably they're from some backward classes, and maybe some SC and ST guys, and they would have an issue with that. So but you have a benefit of doubt there, because you're an English student, you're a literature student, so you are but natural to have good accent. तो वो
Okay.
मुझे लग रहा है कि आई एम अ लिटिल बैलेंस इन दैट. अगर आपका इंग्लिश लिटरेचर नहीं होता, आई वुड टोटली टेल यू कि जस्ट डू अवे विद द एक्सेंट.
Okay.
ठीक है ना?
Okay.
उसमें बिकॉज उसमें एक एलिटिस्ट टच आ जाता है.
Okay.
चलिए, दैट वाज फाइन. उसके बाद देयर इज दिस वन थिंग व्हेन आई आस्क्ड यू अ क्वेश्चन इन हिंदी.
Mm-hmm.
हिंदी का ड्रग अब्यूज वाला क्वेश्चन पूछा मैंने. और
Mm-hmm.
आई व्हाट आई वांटेड टू सी इज इफ यू वुड रिप्लाई इन हिंदी. What would happen जब आपका इंटरव्यू होगा? They will not stick to the medium. अगर आपका इंग्लिश मीडियम है, they will not stick to the medium. They will
Mm-hmm.
change the language, as have already happened with other candidates as well. तो
Mm-hmm.
वहां पर वो चेंज कर लेंगे लैंग्वेज, एंड यू शुड ऑलवेज आंसर इन द सेम लैंग्वेज जिसमें आपको सवाल पूछा गया है.
Okay.
इवन इफ योर मीडियम इज इंग्लिश,
Medium
आपको,
English.
हाँ, आप जो हिंदी में सवाल पूछा तो हिंदी में ही जवाब दे दो आप.
Mm-hmm.
Then I told you, give me three reasons about of Baramulla's rich composite culture. Then I
Mm-hmm.
again told you, give me. Uh,
Three
I told
weaknesses.
you three weaknesses. ऐसे ही
Yeah.
मैंने कुछ आपको स्पेसिफिक चीजें पूछी थी. बट द
Mm-hmm.
थिंग इज, जैसे मैंने आपको बोला बारामूला की तीन आप मुझे ये बता दो कंपोजिट कल्चर के रीजंस. आपने बारामूला पे मुझे एक ऐसे सुना दिया, पर वो
Mm-hmm.
तीन स्पेसिफिक पॉइंट जो मैं पॉइंट वाइज चाह रहा था, वो नहीं दिया
Mm-hmm.
आपने.
Okay.
तो जब मैं यही से आपको बोल रहा हूँ कि थ्री रीजंस, जस्ट गिव मी द थ्री
Mm.
रीजंस एंड जस्ट देन डोंट एलैबोरेट ऑन दैट.
Okay.
आपने पूरा पैरा तो मुझे बता दिया, बट आई जस्ट वांटेड थ्री रीजंस. वो 1 2 3 में आना चाहिए. द फर्स्ट वुड बी दिस, द सेकंड वुड बी दिस, द थर्ड वुड बी दिस.
Mm-hmm.
फाइन, यू हैव अ वेरी गुड अंडरस्टैंडिंग. आपने वो रीजंस उसमें दे दिए थे, बट इट हैज टू कम लाइक बुलेट पॉइंट्स.
Okay.
देन फैशन डिजाइनिंग वाले क्वेश्चन पे यू हैंडल्ड इट वेल. गार्डनिंग पे यू हैंडल्ड इट वेल. एक्सरसाइजिंग फाइन है आपका. नाउ सी, जो मुझे लगा कि हाँ, आपने, मैंने आपको बोला कि आपका व्हाई शुड वी सिलेक्ट यू, और वहां पर कुछ चीजें मुझे थोड़ी खटक रही
Mm-hmm.
है. ठीक है. तो मुझे देखो, यू आर अ वेरी गुड हम्बल पर्सन, यू आर अ वेरी गुड पर्सन, बट आई डोंट नो दैट. मैं फिर से वही बोलूंगा, मुझे वो
Right.
नहीं पता.
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है ना? आपका टोन, आपका वो 20 मिनट मेरे साथ गुजारना वुड बी
Mm-hmm.
इनफ फॉर मी टू डिसाइड
Mm-hmm.
ऑन दैट. और आई माइट हैव अ रॉन्ग इम्प्रेशन. ठीक है,
Mm-hmm.
मगर वो
Uh-huh.
आप ही की गलती होगी.
Yeah.
So
So.
don't use these words like I'm this and that, and I have done this. I've beaten up a guy who was maybe misbehaving, and
Yeah.
ये ये सब चीजें, it's not good. It's totally not good.
All right. All right.
ठीक है. So why
Yeah.
should we? Now you don't have to sell yourself.
Okay.
So my point was, if there's a question, if there was always already this question asked to, I guess, three of these. Why should we select you? Now the answer that you should give, you should not immediately start selling yourself कि मुझ में ये है, मुझ में ये है, अपने अपने फीचर्स गिनाने शुरू कर दोगे. Don't do that. The idea is, आप तीन चीजें देखनी है उनको. सबसे पहले, are you logical enough, क्योंकि आपके
Mm-hmm.
सिलेबस में logical exposition. Then they want to also see whether or not you have moral integrity in you. Then they want to see the balance of judgment. ये तीन
Mm-hmm.
चीजें हैं. इसके तीन चीजें होते हैं. Your logical exposition,
I would
moral.
want to note that down. Would you please
Yeah,
let me
please do.
fetch?
So my point was,
Mm-hmm.
questions में you have to give the answers keeping in mind these three things. They are expecting a logical answer from you. They are
Mm-hmm.
expecting moral integrity, and
Mm-hmm.
then they are expecting a balance of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है. Now, how would you answer such a question? Showcasing these three qualities: logic, morality, and balance. Now, if they tell you why should we select you, अब
Mhm.
पहले तो आप logic दिखाएंगे. Sir,
Mhm.
the recruitment, the scheme of the exam is such that I'm aware of a situation where many of the students will be left out.
Mhm.
तो सारे के सारे तो select नहीं होंगे, and you should be aware of it that you also cannot be selected. ठीक है ना? It's not like you don't have a birthright on this job. So
Mhm.
there is a thing that you cannot be selected. So you're showcasing your logic. Then showcase your morality. How? Sir, I don't know my competitors and I don't know their strengths and weaknesses. However, what I do want is that the recruitment process it should be fair to everybody, and may the best person be selected for the job.
Okay.
So there you're showcasing the morality that
Moral.
that best person should be selected. Yeah.
Hmm.
Then you have to sell yourself, and at the last stage you have to come up with a balanced answer. Since I don't know my competitors, what I do know is सिविल सर्विसेज और एक सिविल सर्वेंट ऑफिसर की रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है, उसके अंदर कौन कौन से फीचर्स होने चाहिए. एप्टीट्यूड होना चाहिए उसमें, इंटेग्रिटी होनी चाहिए, मोरालिटी होनी चाहिए, एथिक्स होना चाहिए, या एम्पैथी, जो भी आपने एथिक्स में पढ़ा है, एम्पैथी,
Mhm.
डेडिकेशन, फोकस, डिसीजन मेकिंग. And as far as I know myself, I can humbly reiterate that I have developed these qualities over the years.
Okay.
ठीक है ना? So that would be a balanced answer, because they would expect कि एक humble इंसान आए, not the person जो उल्टा हमें ही मार दे
बच्चे
अगर
को
हम उसको
मार
सिलेक्ट ना
दे.
करें तो.
Okay. ठीक है.
ठीक है. एंड फिर मैंने आपको बोला आप अपने 18 year old सेल्फ को क्या 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 एडवाइस दोगे.
Hmm.
आपने बोला ट्रस्ट योर सेल्फ, दैट वाज फाइन, दैट वुड
Hmm.
शोकेस कॉन्फिडेंस.
Hmm.
एंड डोंट लेट एनीवन सैबोटाज यू.
Mhm.
ठीक है ना? मैं इसको ठीक तरीके से भी ले सकता हूँ, अगर इफ आई हैव टू इंटरप्रेट इन अ गुड वे, आई वुड इंटरप्रेट इट. बट देयर इज दिस सॉर्ट ऑफ rebel
Negativity. Okay. Rebel
rebellious,
nature. Yeah.
rebellious feature to it.
Yeah.
There's a slight touch to it, and we don't want officers to have that sort of inclination. So instead you come up with very subtle answers like, I would tell my 18-year-old self that start preparing for civil services as early as possible.
Okay.
ठीक है ना? तो आपका एक persona दिख जाएगा उसमें कि you desperately want this job, because you then they would decide that you are born for it.
Mhm.
उसके बाद मैंने आपको बोला कि चले अपनी 3 वीकनेसेस बताइए. आपने बोला, सर, आई डोंट हैव many weaknesses,
Hmm.
but however I can think
Hmm.
of is my tone.
Hmm.
Well, you but naturally you might have a lot of weaknesses.
Mhm.
मुझे तो आपसे 10 गुना ज्यादा होगी.
Mhm.
जैसे वीकनेसेस का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप अपने कैरेक्टर की वीकनेस मुझे बताओ, उसमें
Okay.
मे बी आप फ्लॉलेस कैरेक्टर हो आपका. वीकनेस का
Mhm.
मतलब ये है, सर, आई स्पेंड अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम ऑन सोशल मीडिया. Sir,
Okay.
if there's a good food that I like, I cannot
Mhm.
control myself. I have an issue with the diet control.
Okay.
Yeah, what you can mention is, sir, I'm not too artistic, because my friends, they have very good singing skills, and they can paint, they can have this paintings and all that. मुझ में वो
Hmm.
सब नहीं है, so I consider my that to be a weakness. काफी subtle weaknesses बतानी है.
Okay.
तो याद रहे, ऐसी वीकनेस ना हो जो कैरेक्टर पे सवाल उठा सके. जैसे आप अगर बोलोगे कि लोगों को लगता है कि मैं एरोगेंट हूं, तो ऐसा भी लग सकता है उनको कि सारे लोगों को क्यों लगेगा आप एरोगेंट हो, अनलेस कि आप एरोगेंट नहीं हो.
Yes.
ठीक है ना?
Yeah.
तो डोंट लीव अ स्कोप ऑफ इंटरप्रिटेशन. ऐसा
Mhm.
बिल्कुल भी गलती नहीं करना. आपको अपने हिसाब से आप तो सही जवाब दे रहे हो, पर इफ देयर इज अ स्कोप ऑफ इंटरप्रिटेशन, सम ऑफ द पैनलिस्ट वुड इंटरप्रेट इट नेगेटिवली.
Okay.
To give very subtle examples, sir, I'm not too artistic, I have this problem, I'm too workaholic, so mera
Mhm.
tilt towards work is too much, and being in KS officer, we want people like that. ठीक है ना? So subtle सी examples देनी है. Maybe
Mhm.
they'll ask any example from your life also. तो लाइफ में भी वो एग्जाम्पल्स दे जो काफी सटल हो. कोई एग्जाम्पल बोली जाएगी, बताइए आप अपनी लाइफ में कब इम्पेशेंट हुए हो, या कब आपको गुस्सा आया है. तो उसमें भी थोड़ी सटल एग्जाम्पल देना. कोई कोई
डिसेंट
हार्डकोर
सच
वाली
बोलने हैं.
लड़ाई.
डिसेंट सच बोलने हैं. ऑनेस्ट वाले
हाँ
सच
हाँ.
को बोलने नहीं है. ओके.
हाँ, बस ये ठीक है. इफ इट वाज अ यूपीएससी इंटरव्यू, मैं थोड़ा अलग तरीके से बोलता, पर मैंने जो अभी तक 40-50 ट्रांसक्रिप्ट्स पढ़े हैं,
हम्म.
you know, uh, most of the time it is said that they don't even look at your DAF. तो मैं लेकिन वो वाला आपका कवर कराना चाहता था कि आपका डैफ कम से कम तैयार हो,
Okay.
बिकॉज जिसको डैफ तैयार नहीं है वो उसके लिए इट इज उसने जैसे कोई खून कर लिया फिर उसने, अगर उसका डैफ तैयार नहीं है तो।
Right.
तो बाकी रिगार्डिंग करंट अफेयर एंड रिगार्डिंग दीज टॉपिक्स, वो अगर आपको नहीं भी पता है, यू कैन सिंपली से आई डोंट नो, तो उसमें उनको कोई इशू नहीं होगा। यस, देयर वाज दिस वन थिंग जहां पर यू गेव अ रॉन्ग आंसर।
Okay.
It yes, it was regarding the Apple traders.
Okay.
Apple traders pay. You gave a wrong answer. Or
Mm-hmm.
what I would expect is, if you don't know about this issue, you can simply say, "Sir, I'm sorry, मेरी नजर नहीं गई उस issue पर, तो I cannot comment on that." तो वो that would be fine. वो याद नहीं रहेगा उनको, अगर आप 10 बार भी I don't know बोलोगे, वो याद नहीं रहेगा, because उनको इतने सारे questions पूछने हैं, they will not remember it. But once you give a wrong answer, वो
That,
उनको नहीं भूलेगा।
okay. Sir,
ठीक है, वो जैसे
I
आपने
read this article in Greater Kashmir. It actually said why the demand is falling, and it gave these
no,
reasons.
that was not the reason they demanded a strong action against the imports from Iran. The problem was ईरान से जो एप्पल इंपोर्ट हो रहा था,
Hmm.
ईरान को जो यहाँ पर हम जो ईरान से इंपोर्ट करते हैं उस पे कस्टम ड्यूटी पड़ती है, तो
Hmm.
उसका जब प्राइस बढ़ेगा तो दैट वुड नॉट क्रिएट एनी इशू विद कश्मीरी एप्पल्स। बट व्हाट वाज हैपनिंग इन रियलिटी वाज ईरान अपने एप्पल्स अफगानिस्तान से एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा था इंडिया में, और
Okay.
अफगानिस्तान और हमारा वी हैव अ फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट विद देम, so there was a duty free import of apples into Kashmir,
Okay.
and that is what the demand from Kashmiri apple traders was, that हमें चाहिए कि ईरान डायरेक्टली अपने ये भेजे, it should not go through Afghanistan and to take benefit from the FTA that we have with Afghanistan.
Yes.
Hmm. बस यही है, if you have any questions you can ask, बाकी मुझे लगा कि I have a very solid personality, very confident personality, and you're good, but there is a very thin line between confidence and arrogance.
No. Yeah.
You know, yeah, you have to, और वो दिख जाता है, थोड़ा बहुत just be a little relaxed.
So actually, since childhood, I have held these leadership positions: monitor, line
Mm-hmm.
leader, head girl, this and that. And now my tone has become loud because I used to address a lot of people all the time. So now
Mm-hmm.
my voice has become loud like that. And I don't know, people want confidence. I have this strong voice, and that makes me feel like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, she is overconfident or maybe she's arrogant.
आपका जो वर्क है, if you're
Mm-hmm.
working for a private company, uh,
Mm-hmm.
this this quality that you've mentioned, this is what they want, but
Right.
not in the public services. It's
Yes.
not a job, it's a
Yeah.
service for the public, right? So we want
Okay.
very humble and down to earth people here, and you are that, but you have to put it across.
Sure.
That is your job,
Yes.
right? And uh, बाकी मुझे लगा कि you're a solid candidate. Inshallah, let's wait for the
Let's,
final list.
let's
We
hope
hope.
that I have scored good in mains. I watch a lot
Main.
of your videos during my preparation, and it's amazing talking to you like this. Like I watched because you were one of the first, academies that went online from Kashmir with quality
Mhm.
substance, and I've wanted to teach for a long time. Um, I love sharing my knowledge, learning from people, and this platform actually makes me happy that okay, this is one of my dreams. Teaching is like a dream to me. I have done that in college, teaching my friends, classmates. I used to take lessons, from my teacher, like, okay, please hand it over to me. I would like to teach. And they used to give me. And it was such an enjoyable time. I just loved that phase. But then COVID happened.
Mhm. So we'll inshallah you get in the list, then
Inshallah.
maybe we can arrange a platform for you.
Inshallah. Hoping for that.
Inshallah.
Because it is really, I'm really passionate about teaching.
Mhm. We'll also share the entire session जो है अभी, it is getting
Okay.
recorded.
All
We'll
right.
share a recording with you as well,
Okay.
and then an edited version also. Okay. Oh, it would be a YouTube link.
Because
All
I
right.
saw your videos,
Mhm.
mock interviews. That's what made me contact Quintessence. It was of a guy. I don't know. The only thing I know that he was wearing a black jacket and the other one was wearing a brown jacket. So I like those mock interviews, and I actually wanted to, tete-a-tete, face-to-face interview, but that couldn't happen.
Yeah, actually, we had two of the sessions for the offline mocks, but then the students went to Jammu and we had to shift to online.
Okay. It was really
Okay.
nice talking to you.
All right. All the best.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Take care.